What the Concordat never understood was that Earth's chaotic, competitive technological development had created systems fundamentally different from theirs. Where they sought perfect efficiency, humans built redundancy. Where they optimized for elegance, Earth engineered for durability. "We need to be more human, not less," Hannah told the World Council. "Our messy, imperfect technology might be our salvation." Humanity mobilized with unprecedented unity. Russian power plants coordinated with American satellites and Chinese quantum computers. African solar arrays linked with European particle accelerators. For once, the divided planet acted as one. Using principles derived from a dozen different scientific traditions, they constructed a network of interfering energy fields, deliberately imperfect, deliberately chaotic. The technology was cobbled together from parts never meant to work together. Cold War-era radio telescopes, cutting-edge quantum computers, and everything in between. "It's the ugliest machine ever built," Nam said with pride as they activated the global network. "No single part is essential. No pattern is perfect." When the void reached Mars, Earth held its breath. The red planet suffered the same fate as Pluto, simply gone. The moon would be next. People gathered in the streets, some praying, some singing, some silent. Families held each other close. If this was the end, at least no one would face it alone. The void reached lunar orbit exactly when predicted. The network activated automatically, creating a shield of chaotic energy patterns around Earth. From space, it would have looked like the planet was wrapped in a constantly shifting aurora of random colors and patterns. The void paused. The energy signatures it sought were absent, replaced by patterns it had never encountered. The disruption field created by Earth's combined technologies distorted its form, dispersing its concentration. For 3 days, humanity held its breath as the void probed Earth's defenses. It pushed against the chaotic shield, seeking patterns it could consume. On the 3rd day, something unexpected happened. The void began to dissipate, its darkness becoming less solid. Like smoke in wind, it gradually retreated back toward the outer planets before vanishing entirely. Earth's celebration was tempered by loss. The moon remained, but Mars and several outer planets were simply gone. The solar system had been forever altered. "We survived," Hannah told the World Council, "not because we were stronger or smarter than the Viridians, but because we were different. Our imperfections saved us." Life slowly returned to a new normal. Earth rebuilt, using lessons learned from the crisis. Nations maintained their unprecedented cooperation, recognizing that unity had saved them all. 6 years later, long-range sensors detected a damaged ship limping into the solar system. Just one vessel, not the grand fleet that had once represented the Concordat. Hannah stood on the landing pad as the battered ship touched down. Its once perfect crystalline hull was cracked and dull, patched with materials that looked decidedly non-Viridian in origin. The door opened slowly, and a figure emerged. Ambassador Li Da stood before them once more, but changed. His silver skin was now dull gray, and his once perfect posture was stooped. His eyes no longer shifted colors, but remained a humble blue. "We come seeking asylum," he said, his voice lacking its former confidence. "And knowledge. You are the only species known to have survived the void." Behind him stood the remaining Viridians, barely 50 in number. "What happened to your people?" Hannah asked. "The void followed us," Li replied simply. "System after system fell. Our perfect technology became our perfect doom. We who once laughed at your primitive ways now come to learn from you." Hannah stepped forward, extending her hand in the human gesture of welcome that June had learned to appreciate. "Earth welcomes all who seek knowledge and offer friendship," she said. "Perhaps together, we can build something neither of us could create alone." Li took her hand awkwardly, the first formal handshake between their species. "Your friend June," he said softly. "He believed in humanity when none of us did. He would be proud to see that he was right." Above them, Earth's chaotic shield still shimmered occasionally, a reminder that in an ordered universe, sometimes the greatest strength comes from embracing imperfection. After hours of debate, the Emergency Council authorized a high-risk mission to the Moon. Commander Moonta, who had led the rescue of the Viridian ship, volunteered immediately. 3 other veterans of that mission joined as well, including Engineer Namsu. "If anyone's going to understand alien tech fast, it's Nam," Moon said confidently. Their shuttle launched 6 hours later, racing toward the Moon as the anomaly continued its slow, inexorable approach to the solar system. Orbital telescopes were already recording disruptions in the Kuiper belt as the darkness passed through it. They landed near the embassy 4 hours later. The massive structure stood silent under the stars. The landing pads that had once bustled with Viridian activity were empty. "Life support active," reported Nam as they approached the main entrance. They left the lights on. The door opened at their approach, unusual given the Viridians' typical security protocols. Inside, the embassy was eerily empty, hallways silent where once silver-skinned figures had glided with quiet purpose. They moved cautiously through the central atrium, weapons ready. The Viridians had never shown hostility, but their sudden departure left all bets off. "Heat signature," Moon whispered, checking his scanner. "Single reading in the main chamber." They approached carefully, rounding the corner to find a lone figure standing surrounded by humming data cores. It was Jun, his skin almost transparent with fear or exhaustion. "You came," he said simply. "I hoped you would." "What's happening?" Hannah demanded. "Where did everyone go?" "The void has arrived," Jun replied, his voice hollow. "The thing our people have fled across 12 star systems. It consumes civilizations that reach certain technological thresholds." He gestured to the data cores. "I've prepared everything I could, all our knowledge of the void, everything that might help Earth survive." His fingers danced across a console, transferring massive data packages to the human systems. "The Concordat believes Earth will be destroyed," he continued. "But I've studied your history. Your species solves problems differently than mine. You embrace chaos and redundancy where we seek perfect optimization." A tremor shook the structure, dust falling from the high ceiling. Through the viewport, they could see a darkness spreading across the lunar surface, consuming the regolith like black water. "Go now," Jun urged. "The void is drawn to our technology's energy signature. It may ignore Earth if no trace of our presence remains." "What do you mean?" Hannah asked, though she already knew the answer. "I must destroy the embassy," Jun said calmly. "Remove all evidence of Concordat technology from this system." As they raced back to their shuttle, Hannah turned. "Come with us." Jun smiled sadly. "I must ensure nothing remains. Perhaps someday our paths will cross again." The last image they saw as their shuttle lifted off was Jun standing alone in the embassy doorway, his form silhouetted against the light within. His hand raised in what he must have learned was a human gesture of farewell. The embassy collapsed in upon itself as they broke lunar orbit, imploding with terrible precision into a perfect circular depression on the Moon's surface. As they raced back to Earth, Nam studied the data Jun had given them. "This isn't just about the void," he said in wonder. "He gave us everything. Their complete technological database." Hannah nodded slowly. "He believed in us more than his own people did." Behind them, the darkness continued its inexorable approach toward Earth. The void entered the inner solar system 3 days after the Viridians vanished. It moved like ink spreading through water, a darkness that consumed light and matter alike. When it reached Pluto, the dwarf planet simply ceased to exist. No explosion, no debris, just absence where something had once been. Hannah hadn't slept since returning from the Moon. She worked with teams around the world, analyzing the data Jun had sacrificed himself to provide. Scientists from every nation collaborated remotely, ancient rivalries forgotten in the face of extinction. "It's not what we thought," Hannah explained during an emergency global broadcast. "Billions watched from homes and shelters as humanity faced its greatest threat. The void isn't targeting life or even civilizations. It seeks specific energy signatures created by the Concordat's perfect optimized technology. Nam Su expanded on her explanation, using simple diagrams. It's like an immune response by the universe itself. The void rejects certain patterns of energy manipulation. The exact patterns the Viridians mastered. While the humans had expected to simply evacuate the crew, Nam saw an opportunity. "We don't need quantum processors," he said, pulling equipment from his pack. "Old-fashioned interference patterns will work. It's basic wave physics." Using equipment designed for deep space exploration, the human team created a crude but effective stabilization field. The humans worked with improvised tools and repurposed equipment, creating solutions the Viridians would never have considered. "How can this work?" asked Ba, watching in disbelief as the containment field stabilized. "Your technology is hundreds of years behind ours." Noun shrugged as he adjusted a dial. "Sometimes newer isn't better. This is how we stabilized our first fusion reactors before we had quantum computing." As they completed emergency repairs and began evacuating the non-essential crew, Hana noticed something strange about the ship's design. The technology was advanced, yes, but specialized to the point of brittleness. There was no redundancy, no backup systems that operated on different principles. When they finally returned to Earth, the Viridian crew was subdued, almost embarrassed. For the first time, they accepted human hospitality without comment on its primitiveness. Later that night, Jum sought Hana out privately at her apartment, something no Viridian had ever done before. "What your team did was remarkable," he said, his color-shifting eyes darkened to deep blue. "The Concordat forgot simple solutions generations ago. We've optimized our technology into perfect efficiency, but perfect things break perfectly too." He hesitated, looking around as if worried about being monitored. "The Concordat has been running for a long time, Hana. Our technology has become so specialized that we've lost adaptability. We've optimized our civilization for specific conditions, but when those conditions change, you can't adapt," Hana finished. June nodded solemnly. "The void seeks perfect patterns. It has consumed 3 elder civilizations already. Their disappearance is why we expanded our search to your sector of space." "Why haven't your leaders told us this?" Hana demanded. June's skin paled to almost white. "Because they consider Earth expendable, a distraction at best." As he left, Hana realized the truth. The Viridians hadn't come to Earth out of benevolence or scientific curiosity. They had come because they were afraid. And whatever they feared was coming closer. The massive energy signature appeared without warning. First detected by a small observatory in Chile, it was initially dismissed as an instrument error. Then stations in Japan, Australia, and Kenya reported the same phenomenon within the hour. Hana was called to the Global Space Initiative headquarters at midnight. The main operations room was packed with scientists and military personnel, all staring at the main screen with expressions ranging from confusion to terror. "What are we looking at?" she asked Director Park. "We don't know," he replied, his voice tight. "It appeared at the edge of the solar system 90 minutes ago. It's growing." The display showed what looked like a spreading darkness, visible only because it blocked the stars behind it. The readings were unlike anything in human experience, a gravitational anomaly that somehow absorbed light itself. "Have the Viridians responded to our communications?" Hana asked. General O shook his head. "All channels to the lunar embassy have gone silent. Our last orbital images show this." He pulled up footage from an Earth telescope aimed at the moon. The Concordat embassy was surrounded by frantic activity. Viridian ships were launching from the surface, accelerating toward the outer solar system, away from Earth, and away from the approaching anomaly. "They're abandoning us," Dr. Choi Jin stated flatly as they watched the data feeds. "They're running away." Within 3 hours, all Viridian vessels had vanished from lunar orbit. The embassy stood silent on the moon's surface, its silver spire no longer gleaming but dull in the harsh sunlight. Hana pounded her fist on the table. We need to know what we're facing. The Viridians know, and they've chosen to leave us in the dark. She thought of June's warnings, of the fear in his eyes when he spoke of the void. Whatever was approaching had frightened the supposedly advanced Concordat into flight. "I need to get to the moon," she said suddenly. "Their embassy might contain information we need to survive." The suggestion sparked immediate argument. It was too dangerous. The anomaly was heading toward the inner solar system. Resources should be focused on Earth's defenses. If the Concordat is fleeing, they know something we don't. Hannah argued fiercely. We need that knowledge to survive. Through these conversations, Hannah began piecing together a troubling picture. The Concordat wasn't the benevolent federation they portrayed themselves as. Their perfect society, their technological superiority, it all hid something else. "The void consumes all," Jun whispered one day as they walked through the garden. His skin had paled almost to transparency, and he quickly changed the subject when another Viridian approached. Hannah reported these conversations to Earth's Unified Response Team, a secret coalition of scientists and military personnel from major nations. In underground facilities around the world, humanity quietly combined their resources. If the Viridians wouldn't share, they would develop their own countermeasures, just in case. Russian quantum physicists worked alongside American engineers. Chinese biologists collaborated with European computer scientists. Old enemies became partners in the face of a greater unknown. As Hannah boarded the shuttle to return to Earth, she caught sight of Ambassador Lee watching her from a high window, his eyes a cold, calculating red. She maintained her diplomatic smile, but her hand tightened around the data chip hidden in her pocket. June's accidental gift containing fragments of Viridian cultural records never meant for human eyes. The Concordat might laugh at Earth now, but Hannah was determined to ensure they wouldn't be laughing forever. The distress signal blared across all frequencies at 3:17 a.m. Earth time. The Concordat vessel Luminous Harmony was experiencing catastrophic system failures in high Earth orbit. Its antimatter containment fields were collapsing. Hannah was awakened by the emergency alert on her phone. The message was being broadcast in both Viridian and human languages, unusual for the typically secretive aliens. "All vessels maintain safe distance," the message repeated. "Fatal containment breach imminent. Luminous Harmony crew evacuating to moon base." But orbital sensors told a different story. The Viridian escape pods were malfunctioning, unable to launch. Something had gone catastrophically wrong with their primary systems. Within an hour, Hannah found herself in an emergency meeting with Earth's Space Agency directors. Ambassador Lee's face appeared on the main screen, his skin a pale gray that humans had learned indicated extreme stress. "This is an internal Concordat matter," Lee stated firmly. "Earth vessels must maintain distance. Your primitive shielding cannot withstand the radiation if containment fails." General O leaned forward. "With respect, Ambassador, our sensors show your escape systems are compromised. We have 3 rescue vessels ready to launch." "Absolutely not." Lee's eyes flashed deep red. "Your interference would only make matters worse. The Harmony systems are far beyond your comprehension." After the transmission ended, Hannah stood up. "They're afraid," she said simply. "Not of the disaster, but of us seeing their technology up close. Or of us seeing them fail," added Dr. Choi Jin. Hannah made her case forcefully. "Their systems are failing. Our primitive technology might be their only hope. And if that ship explodes in Earth orbit, the electromagnetic pulse could knock out our satellites and power grids." After tense debate, the decision was made to launch a rescue mission against the Concordat's wishes. Commander Moontag would lead 3 shuttles through the debris field already surrounding the dying Viridian ship. "This could start an interstellar incident," Moon said as they prepared for launch. Hannah, who insisted on joining as translator, nodded grimly. "Or prevent one." 6 hours later, they approached the massive Viridian vessel. Up close, the ship's crystalline surface was fracturing, spiderwebbing with cracks that leaked bright blue energy. "Their design is strange," commented Nam Su, the mission's engineer. No redundancy, no backup systems. As they docked with the alien ship, they encountered their first surprise. The legendary composure of the Viridians had completely collapsed. The crew was in panic, running through corridors, their skin flashing chaotically through colors humans had never seen them display. The Viridian captain, Ba Hyun, approached them with obvious relief rather than the usual condescension. The containment system requires a specific crystalline resonance we cannot generate without our quantum processors, he shouted, grabbing Moon's arm, the first time any human had been touched by a Viridian. Our backup systems used the same technology as the primary, so when one failed, they all failed, Nam Su finished, already scanning the engine room with human instruments. Single point of failure, basic engineering mistake. As Hana watched the news coverage from her apartment, she noticed Ambassador Lee's eyes shift to a deep red when discussing certain topics, particularly when asked about other alien civilizations. "We are the most advanced species you will encounter," he had said, his eyes burning crimson. "The others did not progress as we have." Hannah recorded these moments, starting a private database of inconsistencies. While the world celebrated first contact, she grew increasingly certain that the Viridians were hiding something important, something that might determine the future of humanity itself. The Concordat embassy rose from the lunar surface like a gleaming silver spire, visible from Earth with even basic telescopes. People would gather in parks on clear nights just to catch a glimpse of humanity's first proof that we were not alone. Schools held Viridian days, where children built models of alien ships from aluminum foil and dreams. 6 months had passed since first contact. Dr. Kim Hana's role had evolved from translator to diplomat, making regular trips to the moon as part of the human delegation permitted to visit the embassy. The visits were always supervised, always restricted to specific areas. Today, Hana stood in the embassy's main observation deck, watching Earth hang in the blackness of space. The blue marble seemed so fragile from here. "Your home is quite beautiful," said Kang Minho, a Viridian scientist who had been assigned as her guide. "Though inefficiently designed. So much water." Hana had learned to recognize the subtle condescension in their comments. "Water is essential to our biology," she replied evenly. "Yes, yes," Minho waved a silvery hand. "We have studied your systems extensively. Quite resilient for such a primitive foundation." This was how all conversations went with the Viridians. Any exchange of knowledge came with reminders of human inferiority. The Concordat shared medical breakthroughs that cured 3 forms of cancer, but refused to explain the underlying principles. They demonstrated energy production that made fusion look like striking flint, but called it basic technology, unworthy of detailed discussion. "Your fusion technology is charming," Minho remarked later as he observed the human research facility on the near side of the moon. "We mastered this when our ancestors were still using stone tools." Hana bit her tongue. She had been specifically instructed to maintain diplomatic relations, no matter the provocation. Earth's governments were desperate for any scraps of knowledge the aliens might share. Back on Earth, military leaders from every nation grew increasingly concerned. Weekly security briefings detailed the growing technological gap. The Viridians had mapping capabilities that could detect a mouse moving in a field from orbit. Their ships could appear and disappear without warning, and they persistently refused access to anything related to their propulsion systems or energy production. "We cannot give children matches," Ambassador Lee explained during a particularly tense diplomatic summit in Geneva. His eyes shifted to a patronizing shade of orange as he spoke. "Your species requires maturation." General O pounded his fist on the table. "You claim peaceful intentions but treat us like pets. How are we supposed to trust you?" Lee's skin rippled slightly, the Viridian equivalent of a shrug. "Trust is earned through development. When you are ready, more will be revealed." That evening, Hana found herself alone in the embassy garden, a strange place where plants from a dozen worlds grew in carefully calibrated atmospheric bubbles. She was sketching an iridescent flower when a shadow fell across her notebook. "Your art captures essence, not just appearance," said a soft voice. "Most interesting." She looked up to see a younger Viridian. He introduced himself as Song Jun, a junior cultural attaché. Unlike most of his kind, his eyes stayed a consistent deep blue. "Thank you," she replied cautiously. "Art helps me understand things better." "Understanding through abstraction," Jun nodded. "A concept we once had but abandoned for precision." He sat beside her, closer than Viridians typically approached humans. "Your stories contain concepts our histories never developed. This idea of coincidence, we have no word for this." Over the next several weeks, Hannah found herself seeking out Jun during her embassy visits. He seemed genuinely fascinated by human art and literature, asking questions about mythology and fiction that revealed surprising gaps in Viridian thinking. "How can you have stories about events that never happened?" he asked once, genuinely puzzled. "What purpose does this serve?" The anomalous signal appeared on a routine scan of the Kuiper belt. It pulsed with a mathematical precision that could only be artificial. The technician on duty blinked twice at her monitor before calling her supervisor. Dr. Kim Hana was sleeping when her phone rang. The head sinolinguist at the Global Space Initiative fumbled for the device, squinting at the bright screen showing 3:14 am. "We need you here now," said Director Park without greeting. "Something's coming." 30 minutes later, Hannah stood in the control room, staring at the waveform patterns dancing across the main screen. Her dark hair was pulled back in a hasty ponytail, and she hadn't bothered with makeup. "It's definitely a message," she said, tracing the repeating pattern with her finger, "and it's aimed directly at Earth." For the next 3 weeks, Hannah barely left the facility. She slept on a cot in her office and ate whatever food appeared at her door. Her team worked around the clock, feeding the signal into their most advanced translation algorithms. The world governments kept the discovery quiet to prevent panic, but rumors spread online. On the 22nd day, at 2:37 am, the translation matrix finally resolved. "I've got it," Hannah whispered, her voice hoarse from fatigue. She read the message aloud to the room of bleary-eyed scientists. "We have observed your species for some time. The Galactic Concordat acknowledges your existence, though your technological progress remains quaint. We will arrive to establish formal contact in 3 days." The announcement went global within hours. Religious groups declared the end times. Stock markets plummeted, then surged as companies with space-related technologies saw their values skyrocket. Military forces worldwide went on high alert. Exactly 72 hours later, 7 crystalline ships appeared in lunar orbit. They arrived without any detectable approach, simply materializing as if they had always been there. The vessels shimmered with an iridescent light that defied Earth's most advanced spectral analysis. "They're toying with us," muttered General O as he watched the feed from orbital telescopes. "Show him off." The first transmission from the ships came directly to every television, radio, and connected device on Earth simultaneously, bypassing all encryption and security protocols as if they didn't exist. A tall, silvery-skinned being appeared on screens worldwide. He introduced himself as Ambassador Li Dai of the Viridians, representatives of the Galactic Concordat. His eyes shifted colors as he spoke, moving through shades of blue and purple that seemed to indicate emotional states humans could only guess at. "We come in peace," he said, the phrase so cliched that Hannah would have laughed if the situation weren't so serious. "Your world has potential, though your grasp of quantum mechanics is amusing." The United Nations hastily convened an emergency session. Representatives from every nation gathered to meet the alien delegation that would arrive by shuttle at the UN headquarters in New York. Hannah was selected as part of the human welcome team due to her role in translating the original message. She stood nervously beside world leaders as the sleek silver craft descended from the sky, making no sound as it landed on the specially prepared platform. Ambassador Li emerged first, towering nearly 7 feet tall. His skin reflected light like polished metal, and his movements were fluid and precise. 5 other Viridians followed him, each carrying devices that scanned continuously in all directions. "Your air is tolerable," Lee announced, as if granting a compliment. "Your radiation levels are higher than optimal, but we can adjust." Something in the translation caught Hannah's attention. Certain phrases didn't align with the mathematical precision of the rest of their language. When the formal greetings ended, she approached her colleague, Dr. Choi Jin. "Did you notice the inconsistencies in their speech patterns?" she asked quietly. Jin shrugged. "We're lucky they're even talking to us. Did you see their ships? We're ants to them." But Hannah couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. That evening, as world leaders began the first formal negotiations with the Concordat, the aliens made their first demand. They would establish an embassy on the far side of the moon, away from Earth's electronic noise.